You did make a mistake. When I was on that publication, it was not called Socialist Review, it was called Socialist Revolution. So, there you go. Right. So I've been given just a few minutes. So I'm not going to give you my regular talk on populism, and if you're interested, you should read my book. I'm here, I think, as a representative of older white males from the suburbs who have friends who voted for Donald Trump. That's how I figured, right? Populism. Political scientists try to define everything as if they're at Livermore laboratories. There is no definition that fits all instances. What really is at stake is a politics beginning in the United States, 1890s, that makes a division politically between the people and the elite, or establishment, and who the people are and who the elite depend upon the particular history and circumstance, whether the populist candidate or movement tends toward the left and tries to unite the bottom and the middle against the top, or whether they tend toward the right. And in addition to attacking the establishment on behalf of the middle class or the silent majority, also scapegoat or attack another group, Muslims, African Americans, illegal immigrants, what have you, that they claim are being coddled by the establishment. So again, that's the kind of populism I'm talking about. Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, Mélenchon in France now, Podemos, Front National, this whole group. Its populism springs up in the United States very episodically, and it springs up at moments when a prevailing consensus among the leadership in the country has come under attack and is being questioned by a significant minority of the people. You know, populist Original People's Party, laissez-faire capitalism. What we have today is really a reaction against the kind of capitalist worldview, political economy that begins in the 70s and early 80s. Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, Mitterrand in France when he goes on a U-turn, and is embraced to some extent also by Democrats. And particularly, we could think about the Bill Clinton administration of the 90s, and its main tenets are capital mobility. Corporations can move wherever they want. Capital can flow easily across borders. Labor mobility, increased immigration. Workers can work in whichever country they want. Again, something that can tend to depress wages and by increasing the labor supply. Deregulation of finance in particular. And a reshuffling of the tax code, the purpose of which, again, is the idea that if you increase profits for corporations, then that will result in higher wages, greater taxes, and will redound in a kind of virtuous circle. Just the way the older idea was that if you increase wages, it would increase profits. So this is the reverse. And as long as it seemed to work in the 80s, as long as it worked in the late 90s, there was quiet on the Western Front. But the first time when it started to misbehave in the early 90s, the recession, you get Perot and Buchanan. And then in the wake of the Great Recession, we have a whole bunch of people. We have the Tea Party, we have Occupy Wall Street, and then we have Sanders and Trump. Now, the peculiar thing, again, about populism is it's based upon and it's defined by demands that themselves the establishment won't grant. Bernie Sanders, again, now it's changed, but again, think about the campaign. Medicare for all, never going to happen, right, in the United States or the Congress. 5 minutes? I mean, my God. a 35% tariff on goods coming back into the United States from China and Mexico, you know, not going to happen. The wall. So again, what happens when the inconceivable occurs? Now, you know, the way I frame it, populism itself is a kind of early warning signal that a consensus is breaking down. But what happens when the guy actually gets elected? Well, in Greece, accommodation, we can't do it, so the Syriza becomes, in effect, like the old Socialist Party that it displaced. Trump, the United States, elected under all these strange circumstances, is in a very difficult situation. He had very little support to begin with. You know, one senator whom you know, 9 congressmen, no major officials, about 25% of the electorate. So what's he going to do? And you know, again, what we see in the Trump administration is a kind of division typified by Bannon versus Kushner and Cohen, etc., where Trump, on the one hand, is trying to hew to his agenda on things like China and manufacturing and immigration, and on the other hand is trying to win some kind of victories, even if he has to abandon it and to work with the Republicans. And you know, he has pretty much not been successful. If you look again at the trade negotiations with China, the rewriting of NAFTA, if you look at these corporations that he jawboned into staying in the United States that are now leaving anyway, and even if you look at immigration, where there was just a story that there are going to be less people deported under Trump than were deported in the last year under Obama. So, you know, again, but here's what I want to say to you if I have another 2 minutes to talk. Early warning signal that things are breaking down. The issues that Trump ran on and that he won on, and some of which he's trying to do something about, are very important. And they might be stained by his advocacy and by the penumbra of racism or nativism that surround them. But they're real issues, and they're things that Democrats and liberals have to pay attention to. Trade, first of all. China, you know, 2.5 million jobs lost, what, 2001 to 2015 in manufacturing. Contributed to incredible instability in the global economy, the tremendous surpluses from China, and also Germany and the EU, again, which Trump attacked. Manufacturing. You know, it's not a matter of making T-shirts, but there's a real issue here. Manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, something we're also losing out on. And, you know, I have a whole spreadsheet that Rob Scott gave me of advanced industries where our exports declining. Computers, semiconductors, and electronic equipment, machine tools, all these kind of things that are absolutely central, and not just to jobs, but they're also central to a kind of, like, if I can use the term here, surplus value on which the basis of our government, the basis of which our government can produce benefits for everybody. You know, you don't get that from home health care workers. You get it from manufacturing. It's very important. Germany, 19%. We have, what, 9%? We could have 11 or 12%. So it's jobs, too. Finally, immigration, very controversial. Look, you know, once was about 4% of the population, of the working population was foreign-born. Now it's closer to 14% since 1965. Due to family reunion and a revision in 1990, immigration has been ballooning. Now, about a third to a half is unskilled, illegal. I'm doing it. And if you look at the illegal immigrants, about 75%. What does that do? It puts tremendous pressure on the lower part of the job market. It's made it harder for unions. Look at what happened to the meatpacking industry in America and to the unions there. It's made it very hard for African Americans, and you know, later in the discussion I'll tell you a few studies that have been done. So it's a real issue. And the problem I see is that the Democrats are so obsessed now with, you know, whether Trump voters hate women, whether they hate blacks, that they're just simply losing out and missing out on these issues that could potentially unite some of the constituencies the Democrats do appeal to with a lot of the people who left the Democrats to vote for Donald Trump in 2016. So, you know, again, my plea is don't simply dismiss Trump and dismiss his voters. Think about the issues that he was raising in that campaign and their importance.